Okay, Perek Chaf Hey, Pasuk Chaf Tes. So yesterday we're on Chaf Hey, Chaf Tes. I want to finish a few points here today. And Chaf Hey, Chaf Tes, page 450. Page 450. So the Torah over here we're talking about the Shulchan. The Shulchan, and then in Pasuk Lamed, 3 lines from the top, it says, "V'nasata al haShulchan lechem ponim lefanai tamid." They put the showbread, put the lechem haponim on the Shulchan. Now, does he show you a picture over here, lechem ponim? I think they have a picture here somewhere of what the bread's like. Yeah, there it is on page 449. It shows you the lechem haponim. Now, there are different opinions what does lechem haponim look like. Over here, in the picture, it makes it look like it's got these little points coming out of it. These little on 449, in the box at towards the right side, the lechem haponim, the showbread. So it's a strangely shaped. Now that's a piece of dough. That's a piece of baked dough over there. What it looks like over there. Now those little points that are sticking out. Not everybody agrees with it. One thing we agree on: the lechem haponim, at least at a minimum, looked like this. It was dough. And the dough was like this with 2 walls. It's called lechem haponim because it was open. The face. It's lechem haponim, the face, yes, looking out that way. Now, the first thing is the Gemara says there was a family who knew how to bake the bread. This is a trick. You had to be able to bake the bread where the sides went up and they stayed in that shape. It's not that easy to do that with dough. It's not that easy to do that with dough, to get dough to stay a certain shape. It's like, sometimes, so there's a family called Beis Garmu. They were the family who knew how to bake, the secret of the bread, of how to bake the bread. And it says in the Gemara that their children, the Beis Garmu children, never ate a clean, sifted white bread. They never ate sifted white bread, so the people shouldn't think they're nipping at the lechem haponim. And we learn an important rule from this. It's called v'hiyisem nikiyim. Don't do anything that causes people to suspect you of inappropriate behavior. There's another family that was in charge of the besamim, the spices in the Beis Hamikdash that they made the ketoras out of. They were called Beis Avtinas. So they knew how to compound the spices, and there was a certain spice they put in there that caused the flame to go straight up. The smoke of the flame went straight up. And they knew a certain weed. There's a certain weed that caused the flame to go straight up. It says that their daughters and daughters-in-law, women from Beis Garmu, did not use any sort of perfume, so that no one should think that they're nipping at the spices of the Beis Hamikdash. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them perfuming it. There's nothing wrong with the Beis Garmu people eating clean sifted white bread, except that in order to maintain what's the word I'm looking for, to be above board, make sure you're above board, so nobody transparent. Nowadays it's called transparency. All these new words they got, transparency, to make sure nobody suspects you. So I had in my shul, in every shul they have the pushka where you collect the tzedakah. So there's a rule like that silver tzedakah thing, like that thing. There you go. So in every shul they have the pushka. They always tell you somebody in every minyan is in charge of cleaning it out at the end of davening. So because otherwise the kids will clean it out, right? And which is normal. I did it when I was young, and others will do it when that's a tradition too. So So in every minyan there's somebody in charge of making sure to clean out the pushka. So I was my job in my minyan. I was the guy who would clean out the pushka. So as I would take out the money, I put it in my pocket, and I had a bucket in home, and I would take the money out and put it in the house. So I remember one day there was a guest in shul, and towards the end of davening, I'm walking out with my tefillin bag, and I walk over to the pushka, and I kind of scoop it out, and I put it in my pocket, and the guy's kind of looking at me. Right? And I realized I walked away he doesn't know who I am and why I'm doing this. So what I did from that point on is I kept a supply of little plastic bags in the shul and then I would make it, pour it into a place. See, if you're using a plastic bag, you're obviously not stealing. That everybody, then obviously you're. So at least to do that, so that you maintain. They actually had an incident in America. There's one of these night deposits by a bank, and there was a sign on the night deposit that was out of order, and there was a cop standing there with a big laundry bag. So people were coming to make the deposit, and there's a sign out of order, and the cop said, "Yeah, right in here." And they dumping it in the bag. Everybody's dumping their night deposits in the bag. It turned out he wasn't a cop. It was just a guy put on a police uniform, and he booked out with a laundry bag full of cash. So which is a great idea, by the way. You don't know that I'm a rabbi. So the what do you call it? You never know. Don't judge by the uniform. So that was the showbread. Now, part of the idea over here is, take a look, this is extremely important. It says, "Nasata ala shulchan lechem panim lefanai tabid." You should put on the table this lechem apanim. Now look at what Rashi says. Lechem apanim, it's the right column of Rashi, all the way towards the bottom, 5 lines from the bottom. Lechem apanim, shehaya lo panim kemoshe pirashti. It had a face. Now, what we learned from this is that we spoke earlier about how the shulchan is prosperity. And it's talking about how, we had mentioned yesterday about how you're supposed to have the poor people at your table. Lechem aponim means bread with a face. Bread with a face. What does that mean? That means you should show a face to the poor people when you give them bread. What kind of? Now we're not talking about, well, don't make faces. We're not talking about that kind of face. You should show a pleasant face, and maybe even that's why it's shaped a little bit like a smile. Make a pleasant face towards the poor people when you give them. Part of the mitzvah of tzedakah, possibly the biggest mitzvah aspect of tzedakah, is the attitude that you have and that you show the poor man. To accept tzedakah from somebody, to accept a handout, the Gemara says a person turns all sorts of colors when you have to accept a handout. It's very embarrassing. It's very humiliating to accept a handout. When you give tzedakah, it should be done with a sever panim yafos, a friendly face, a friendly countenance. And so the Gemara says, here, the shulchan, which is your table, and you're going to have poor people, symbolic of all generosity, all tzedakah that we give, make sure you give it with a lechem apanim. Make sure that you give it with a proper face. Number one. Number two is that the word lechem, there's a pasuk that says, Lechu lachmu belachmi, right? There's a pasuk that says, to indulge in my bread, which really is a reference to Torah. Lechem is Torah. Lechem is used as a euphemism for Torah. So here we have a halacha we learned. What's the connection to shulchan and lechem? Now let me ask you another question. Turn back for 1 second. Turn back to page 448. Watch this. If you look at pasuk 8 lines, 7 lines on the bottom, it says, "V'asisa shulchan atzei shitim." You should make the shulchan out of shitim wood. Okay? Now look at the very next line. You see where I am? I'm 7 lines on the bottom on 448. V'asisa shulchan atzei shitim. 7 lines on the bottom on 448. The next line says, "V'tzipisa oso." You shall coat it with gold. Then it says, "V'asisa lo," and you shall make for it. And the next pasuk says, "V'asisa lo," and you shall make for it. And it keeps talking about it. Then the next one, "V'asisa lo," it keeps talking about it. And what is that in English grammar when you say it? Is that a pronoun? What is it?
Yeah, it would be. Yes.
It would be a pronoun. Dang, he's good. The kid is good, right? It's a pronoun. There you go. So what do you call it? So it keeps using pronouns. Oh, I love it. Boy, my English teacher in high school would turn over in his grave if he knew I knew that. I don't. I was guessing. So it's not a past participle. I always like that one, past participle. Ask me what it is. I know more about the topography in Afghanistan than a past participle. So you guys, what do you call it? It says V'asisa lo. It keeps talking about it, and all of a sudden now again, in this letter it says V'nasata al hashulchan. Why doesn't it say over here V'nasata alav on it? Why did we switch back to shulchan? They would only mention shulchan in the first pasuk. We're talking about the shulchan. It says where you make a shulchan, and then on it, and for it, and it. And then it says, and you should put on the shulchan the showbreads. It could have just said, and you should put on it the showbreads. You hear the question, right? Why did it switch? So one of the Mefarshim says, because this pasuk is including our own tables. Now listen, a fascinating concept. It's including our own tables. And there should be bread on our tables, and bread's a euphemism for Torah. Which means that when a person eats, there should be a Dvar Torah at the table. Did you ever hear that idea? There should be a Dvar Torah. Okay, now here's a mistake that people make. A Dvar Torah at the table doesn't mean a sermon. And it doesn't have to be a drasha. And you don't have to, the Vilna Gaon was once sitting with his disciples. And they were sitting next to him. The Vilna Gaon was on one side of the room, they were sitting, his disciples were eating. And one of them said, we have to say a Dvar Torah at the table. The Vilna Gaon said, you just fulfilled your obligation. Because that's Torah. That's Torah. The fact that you say that we have to say Torah at the table, that is Torah. You just quoted a halacha. So when you're at the table, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a very small. It could just be one little halacha. And all. My wife and I, when we first got married, we used to learn like at every meal. When you're first married, you're very young and idealistic. We used to learn at every meal. We used to learn at least one halacha of lashon hara at the table. Right? There was many couples do that, but then you see the life is boring. So what do you call it? So now we try to learn halacha from Shekitzer Shulchan Aruch. Let's try to learn one little halacha, nothing too elaborate, not a whole drasha. But what's remarkable now? Let's say this. It's a fascinating concept. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says 3 people that were sitting at a table and did not say Torah at the table. They don't say Shlosha she'achlu al shulchan achav v'arma of divrei Torah ki'ilu achlu mizivchei mesim. It's as if you ate offerings of the dead, meaning as if you ate offerings for idol worship. If you sat at a table and you ate, and you didn't say a Dvar Torah at the table, so it's as if you're somehow connected to idol worship. That's pretty. I mean, that's fight man's words. What's okay? So we ate. I was into the food. What's the problem? We're talking about the meat. But what happened over here? What's so? So what do you call it? Number one. Number two. Why 3 people? What about 2 people? Zimun. What about 2 people? Zimun, yeah, you need 3 people for Zimun, but why 2 people also? They sometimes talk to each other at the table. 2 witnesses. 2 witnesses to the one guy who messed up. I mean, you're all in it together. Well, you'll be a witness, I'll be the guy messed up? No, I'll be the witness, you be the guy messed up. Why? How did I get the blame over here? Why are you blaming me? You're the...
You have to invite to say birkat, you say birkat together.
You say that's for the Zimun, that's what Yaakov said, but okay, but that's a completely different subject. Zimun's a different thing. Over here we're talking about 3 people ate at the table, Mo, Larry, and Curly were at the table, and they didn't say a Dvar Torah. And don't knock the 3 Stooges. It was very sophisticated. So my mother, by the way, when we were growing up, she didn't like when we watched the 3 Stooges. Because as soon as the 3 Stooges was over, my brother and I would bang each other. We'd have a pillow fight or something. We'd be knocking and banging each other. But it was funny as heck. The what do you call it? So good, I got that off my chest. So the idea is like this. In the pagan world, there's a different separation between, they talk about the difference between church and state, right? In the pagan world, there's a differentiation between church and plate, right? You have religion and you have the physical world, and the two don't mix. To the contrary, the priests in Catholicism, the priests are, what do you call it? They're celibate and they're what do you call it? They're at very high levels of holiness. As long as there are little children around, they're very high levels of holiness. And so the priests, by the way, my mother, when she did a course when she was a nurse, and she did a course in what do you call it? Part of her training, they had to go into the psychiatric ward in the hospital. This was before there was Alcoholics Anonymous, and she came home one day and told me there is a very high percentage of priests who are alcoholics because you're in a big church without a whole lot to do and a whole basement full of sacramental wine. So the combination made for some for good times, right? So they became alcoholics. That's what she told me, which was also a piece of information she regretted sharing with me, because I never, there was, I went to town with that one. So she regretted that, but it was a fact. Now, in their value system, you have the religion, and everything else is separate. By us, eating is part of serving God also. And sleeping is part of serving God. Exercise is part of it. It's all serving God. Obviously, you have to be careful here, and I want to explain this a little bit. But if you're sitting at a table, and while you're eating, you're devoid of any Torah at the table, that means you in your own mind see this is separate, this is right now I'm not doing anything religious, and therefore what you're really buying into is the pagan philosophy. And therefore 3 people sat at a table and say word of Torah as if they ate pagan sacrifices. Because you're showing that you believe in paganism and their value system. So you say all you got to do is say one word of Torah at the table. You say one Dvar Torah and you're good to go. I think some say even with benching you fulfill it, but you don't want to rely on that because we're not great at benching either. So you want to somebody, benching never comes at a good time. Benching is very inconvenient because it always comes after you've eaten. Right? So if I could bench before I ate, I'd be much better. My benching would be much better. You finish a fry. Let's face it, guys. Come on. You finish a cholt and a couple of shots of Glenmorangie. Okay, let's bench. You can't even sit forward to get to the bencher. Let's be real. But at the end of the day, by us, it's all service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The one thing I have to tell you, though, is be careful with this. Don't sit there at the table. Don't prevent yourself from enjoying a meal because you're busy serving God with it. Because we're not on that level. If you're on the level of Vilna Gaon, if anybody is, please let me know. But if you're on the level of the Vilna Gaon, used to eat bread, put it in his mouth, chew it as few times as possible to minimize his pleasures from this world. He would swallow it after chewing it as minimal, so he would minimize his pleasures. Okay, so if you're on the other, when I eat a lemon meringue pie, I do the same thing. I chew it as few times as possible, especially if there's a lot of cream. Come on, let's be real. Who are we and who is he? Make a nice bracha. Say a Dvar Torah at the table, so we haven't forgotten who we are, and that shows that our eating is also a form of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person goes to sleep at night, all you need to do is think once that for the next 6 hours, or 16 hours, as the case may be, however much you sleep, for the next 6-7 hours, I am going to serve Hashem by going to sleep so I can strengthen my body so I can serve Him the next day. And then 7 hours of mitzvah now. You have to sleep because Baruch Hu gave sleep sleep serves a purpose. So a person is eating at a table. That's why it says, V'nasata ala shulchan. That's why it mentions the shulchan again, because now we're not only talking about the shulchan in the Beis HaMikdash. Now we're also talking about the shulchan in your home. V'nasat lechem panim lefanai tamid. They should always put the showbread on there. They should always have bread, which is Torah, should always be on your table. That's what it says.
Which pasuk is that?
That's on page 450, third pasuk from the top. Pasuk Lamed. Okay. Now, if you take a look in Perek Chafei pasuk Lamed Aleph. So then we go on to the menorah. V'asisa menorah zahav tohar. Now, before anything, if you look back in the entire section of the Aron Kodesh, the original section that we did with describing the Aron Kodesh with the Kruvim, there's one letter for the Aleph Beis that does not appear in that entire section. There are 22 letters in the Aleph Beis, besides the end letters. There's one letter in the Aleph Beis that doesn't appear in the entire section of the Aron Kodesh. Does anybody know what it is? Which letter? I mean, I think, good, you're going to guess, right? Now the Aleph is there. Asisa Aron. Aron is without, starts with, not only that's the first letter. Sorry. Which one is the first? Which letter doesn't appear?
None.
Good guess. Why would you think so?
I remember in Asher, I think none.
None does appear. Good, but here not. What do you call it? It's a gimel, actually. How could you possibly know? It's a gimel. It's a gimel. What's a gimel? What's a gimel? A gimel is from the Hebrew word gimul. Gimul means payment, reward. Payment, reward. Gimul. There's no gimel in the Aron Kodesh, which is the idea that when we learn Torah, we should be focused on learning Torah, not focused on getting reward. There's no gimel there. However, in other words, there's the ideal level of serving God, and serving God by doing it l'shem shemaim, 100% l'shem shemaim. There's one problem. Again, we're not necessarily on that level. Maybe you are. I'm not on that level. There has to be some sort of motivation. We're not altruistic enough to just serve purely because God said so. On the other hand, that's what we're strive for. That's the ultimate, is to get to that level. But the Torah is telling you what follows the Aron Kodesh. It follows by the Shulchan, and it's followed by the menorah. That tells you that even though you're learning without thoughts of gimel, of reward, you will gain prosperity in this world, which is the Shulchan, and the menorah, which represents the flame going upwards. There will be the reward in the world to come. That means there will be reward for the Torah. There's the ideal. The ideal is to do it without focus on the gemul. There's actually a statement the Gemara says, if you learn Torah because you want to get rich, or you want somebody to respect you for your knowledge, it's perfectly acceptable motivation. It's not the purest motivation, but it's perfectly acceptable. If you want to learn Torah because you feel that you'll get rich, don't ask me how, but if you feel you'll get rich by learning Torah, or that you become a rabbi and people will respect you for your wisdom, your knowledge, it's perfectly acceptable. It's perfectly acceptable, but it's not the ideal. Then, again, a person has to know, where am I holding as a person? I need some of that motivation. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it at all. And therefore, it's good to have a goal, a motivation. Want to get a little prestige out of it, get a little money out of it, whatever it is, perfectly acceptable, as long as it's a stepping stone to get to the ultimate, which is to serve Hashem for without ulterior motivation. Now, I want to show you a couple more points here. On page... this is, I was absolutely, I found this enchanting when I first saw it. What did we say the Aron Kodesh stands for? What does the Aron Kodesh represent? Torah. Okay. What does the menorah represent?
Wisdom.
Which is also?
Torah.
So you have two utensils in the Beis HaMikdash that represent Torah. You have the Aron Kodesh, which is in the Holy of Holies, and it has the luchos in it. And you have the menorah, which is outside in what's called the Kodesh. And you light the flames, right? You light the flames of menorah. Why are there two utensils that symbolize Torah? Why do you think there are two utensils?
Well, one's the wisdom and one's the embodiment in action.
The wisdom and the embodiment in action. Okay, could be.
One of them we only have access to once a year, and the other one we make use of every single.
So what is that? What's that telling us? What's that? That's exactly the question.
That Torah can both give us.
What do you think of when you think of Torah? And I tell you two parts of Torah. What do you think of? Torah Shabbat, Torah Shuksav. Very good. There's the written Torah. There's the oral Torah. Remember the guy came to Shammai, and he said to Shammai, "I believe you. I believe that there's what do you call it? That there's a written Torah, and I don't believe that there's an oral Torah." He said, "I believe there's a written Torah. I don't believe there's an oral Torah." So Shammai chased him out. So he went to Hillel. What did Hillel tell him? Hillel said, "Okay, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet." He said, "Convert me on condition that you teach me the written Torah." So Shammai chased him out. He went to Hillel. Hillel said, "Okay, lesson 1. I taught him Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet. All the letters. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet." Okay. The next day, the guy comes back, and Hillel reverses it. He goes, "Okay, Dalet, Gimel, Beis, Aleph." He said, "1 second. You told me yesterday it's an Aleph. Now you're telling me that's a Dalet." He goes, "Oh, you trusted what I told you yesterday? So then believe me when I tell you there's an oral Torah." That's what the Gemara says. There's also a medrash that a guy like that came to Rav and Shmuel. He went to Rav, and Rav said they were in later generations. Same type of story. He came to Rav, and Rav said, "That's an Aleph, that's a base." He said, "Who said it's an Aleph? Who said it's a base?" So he chased him out. So then he went to Shmuel. He said, "Aleph, base." He said, "Who said it's an Aleph? Who says it's a base?" So Shmuel reached over, and he flicked his ear real hard. The guy goes, "Oh, that's my ear." He goes, "Who told you that's an ear?" That's what the Medrash says, right? Both are telling you the same thing. What was Hillel saying when he said, "Aleph, Beis"? You trusted me yesterday. How come you trusted me? The answer is, not only to understand it. If I write letters, how do you know what those letters are called? I can't write you what the letters are called because you don't know what the writing means yet. So there has to be some sort of oral instruction. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know what the letters are. Who the Hillel saying to the guy, I taught you, you believe me there's a written Torah. Good, now you can read the written Torah. How do you know how to read the written Torah? Because I orally told you what the words are, how to pronounce them. What Hillel saying is everything has an oral Torah. There's almost nothing in your life that doesn't have an oral Torah. You guys got equipment in your house? In every Jewish house, there's an oral Torah on how to turn on the washing machine. Right? You gotta wedge a comb between the second and third button. Otherwise, it's not going to work. That's an oral Torah. That's not a written Torah. The written instructions are push the button. Yeah, how long does that last for? In every piece of equipment, there's either a comb that's wedged in. And how do you turn on the microwave? In some homes, the microwave, well, you got to kind of close it and flick it with your elbow as you close it. There's always one teenager who knows how to do it, right? And unless Shimmy's home, nobody could use the microwave, right? Shimmy, right? How do you? That's oral Torah. That's oral Torah. You can't do anything without an oral Torah. That's what he's telling him. There are two aspects of Torah. Look at what happens. The written Torah, which is the Aron Kodesh, where does that go? It goes in the Holy of Holies. It's inaccessible. That means this book, the blue book, the written Torah, we can't tamper with this. It's carved in stone. We can't touch the written Torah. The written Torah is inaccessible to everybody. Kohen Gadol goes in once a year and hopes he makes it out alive on Yom Kippur. The Gemara says they used to tie a rope to the time in the second base of English where the Kohanim were not so righteous. They would tie a rope around them, and then you go into the Holy of Holies. If they heard a thud, they'd haul them out. Then they'd send in the second guy. I always wondered what the second guy was thinking. Like, oh no, I'm not feeling so well today. Maybe take Stanley. I'm just not up there right now. The Holy of Holies is inaccessible. The Aron Kodesh, you didn't touch the Aron Kodesh. That's the written Torah is carved in stone. What about the oral Torah? You light a flame on the Mizbech. Light, fire, light always represents wisdom. What Yaakov said, it's wisdom. It's Torah wisdom. 7 branches, there are 7 branches of Torah wisdom, said to be Kabbalistically, 7 branches of Torah wisdom. But you're lighting the flame, meaning what? It's human endeavor, human initiative in the oral Torah. When you're learning a piece of Gemara, what are we doing when we're going Gemara? Those of us who have taken on the challenge of learning Gemara. I dare you to learn Gemara without Rashi. I dare you. Yeah, you got to learn the Gemara, then you got Rashi, and then after that you got to start thinking. Maybe it means this, maybe it means this. All of a sudden there's something. Here I don't have to worry about it. I see what the words mean. You look at the Gemara, it's double Dutch. And you're trying to figure it out. It's human initiative. And we're supposed to innovate in Torah, right? We're supposed to come up with chidush. That's the menorah. So the menorah represents, and that's accessible. That's in the Kodesh. The Kohanim can get to it. The Aron Kodesh is inaccessible. That's written Torah. God, stay off. Hands off. Hold it for a few. The hands off. Hands off. Hold for a few minutes. Hands off. That's the written Torah. Written Torah is hands off. No, inaccessible. Number one. Number two, a Torah scholar. Did any of you ever see? Were you here when Reb Chaim Kanievsky was still alive? Did you ever get into Reb Chaim Kanievsky? Okay, the Rav Elyashiv, the Stipler. What did these people have in common? It's a remarkable thing. Rav Elyashiv, he had the key to a base. He was the Gadol. He was the posek. Reb Chaim Kanievsky's father-in-law. He had the key to a small shul somewhere in Mea Shearim, and he would go in there and lock himself in. He used to learn by himself. He'd lock himself in there for hours. Then he'd be home, and at certain hours of the day he had access where people could come in and ask him their questions. He would get up at 2 in the morning, and he would learn before Shachris. I told you, some people learn before Shachris. They learn 10 minutes. You learn 10 minutes of Mishnayos before Shachris and some Musar. He also learned before Shachris. He got up at 2 in the morning, and he learned till 6. That was his early morning Seder. Okay, so Rabbi Elyashiv learned. But most of the time, he was inaccessible. He was off by himself. The rest of the time, what was he doing? The rest of the time, people were coming to him to ask him for questions, brachas, that sort of thing. Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the Chazon Ish, many of these people, the Chazon Ish, who was the unchallenged leader of the Jewish people up till 1953 when he was Nifter. The Chazon Ish only became, people didn't even know who he was until he was, until the last 20 years of his life. The first 50 years of his life, he sat and learned anonymously. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew. A Talmid Chacham has to have 2 aspects. He has to be part of him has to be buried away. Right now, I'm in the base medrash, I'm learning, I'm inaccessible, I don't even have my phone with me, I am out of contact with the world right now. That's the Aron Kodesh. The other aspect of the Torah scholar is that he has some sort of effect on the community. Either he teaches the community or he helps the community. And when you're Reb Chaim Kanievsky, you shed your light on the entire community. You're the menorah. Everybody gains from his light. So there are two aspects of the Talmud Chacham. That's what why there are two utensils in the Beis Hamikdash that represent Torah. Number one, Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebaped. Number two, the two aspects of a Torah scholar. Part of the time he has to be studying, and part of the time he has to be involved with the people. Okay, now, take a look at Perek Chavav Pasuk Aleph, 26:1. Okay. Ve'es hamishkan taseh eser yerios. The Mishkan you shall make, page 452. Sorry, my bad. Okay, there's also, you can see something about numbers now. Watch this. It says, Ve'es hamishkan, now the tabernacle, taseh eser yerios. You make 10, curtains, thank you. Sheish moshzor uscheles ve'argomim v'tolah shoni kruvi ma'aseh choshev taseh osam. You should make it out of these various materials. You're going to have 10 curtains. It's going to be, and the curtains are going to be connected and draped over. Does he have a picture of it? Does he have a picture of what the Mishkan looked like with the curtains draped over? It should be over here somewhere. It doesn't have a picture of the Mishkan with the... Oh well. Okay. So you have, the best we could do is turn to page, I thought there was a picture here. You should really have this coloring book with this. It comes with it. Take a look at page 463. You got the Mishkan. Now, you have the courtyard and you have the Mishkan, and then you have the Mishkan is the inner part, the tabernacle. That is going to be, that entire thing, which is made out of gold, is going to be covered with curtains. That entire inner structure is covered with these fancy tapestries and curtains. And there are two layers of curtains. One is going to be 5 and 5. 5 curtains attached to 5 curtains with 50 clasps. And the next layer is 6 curtains attached with 5 curtains. Now when you think...
How are they attached?
With clasps. They're metal clasps. Each one has rings and there are clasps that they're attached with. Now, before anything, when you hear of... that's what's going to cover the entire Mishkan. This entire inner part. The inner part is called the Mishkan. The other part is called the courtyard. The inner part is called the Mishkan. Here, if you take a look at... take a look at... what page did I tell you?
452.
Okay, now go to 454. So it says, top line, V'asisa chamishim karsei zahav, 50 clasps of gold. V'chibarta es hayerios isha el achosa, you should connect the two curtains. Bakrosim v'haya mishkan echad. So you're going to connect, you have 5 curtains attached to each other, another 5, then both are attached, both sides are attached to each other. Then you have another layer that it describes of 6 curtains and 5 curtains, and those are also attached together. You'll see it if you go through. I don't want to go through the psukim, you'll see it. I just want to tell you what it means. And it all covers the Mishkan. So when you think 5 and 5, what comes to your mind when you think of 5 and 5, besides a basketball game? 5 against 5. What 5 on 5? What comes to mind in Torah?
5 commandments.
Yes. 5 commandments and 5 commandments. The first 5 commandments, which are man to God. The second 5 commandments, which are man to man. Connected with 50 golden clasps, it means it's all one. That covers the Mishkan, right? That's the first layer. Then you have 6 and 5. What is 5 and 6? What comes to mind?
The 5 books of Moses. And the
5 books
Mishnayot.
and the 6 Mishnayot, which is Torah Shebiksav, the 5 books of the Chumash, and the Mishnah, which is actually Torah Shebal Peh. That's all Torah, connected by 50 clasps. The number 50 represents 50 gates of wisdom. The Gemara says there are 50 gates of wisdom in the world. Moshe Rabbeinu was only able to access 49. He could not access the 50th gate of wisdom. There are 50 gates of wisdom. So none of this is a coincidence. But what the Torah is trying to tell you over here is there are two concepts here. Have you ever heard of the 6 constant mitzvos? What is the idea? Have you ever heard of the idea of 6? There are 6 constant mitzvos that a person could do. And you could do anywhere you are. You could be standing in line in a bank. You could be in traffic. You could be playing a baseball game. You could be at the table. 6 constant mitzvahs, which are to think about the fact that God created the world, that we don't worship other gods, that we were taken out of Mitzrayim by God. Just think about these things, and every time you think it, you're doing a mitzvah. It's called the 6 constant mitzvos. I don't remember the other. I don't remember the what do you call it? Those are the 3. They're 6 constant mitzvos. Lo sasuru, to not stray after your eyes and after your heart. To think that those are 6. What's called sheish mitzvos tamidios. And we have a tradition that if you think these, then the evil inclination is neutralized. He has no power over you at that moment. How do you like that? You can neutralize him. Okay? Now, do you know what the evil inclination is called? He's called the foreign invader. What's a foreigner called? We had this yesterday or 2 days ago. What's stranger. A stranger? What's the Hebrew word for it? A ger. What's another word we said? What goes around the Aron Kodesh? The crown around the Aron Kodesh is called the zer. The crown. And we said a zer is related to the word zar, that our crowning achievement is making ourselves strangers from the rest of the world. The evil inclination is called a zar. He's the foreign invader. Now take a look at this. You have to see inside. Ooh, watch it, Yaakov, watch it. I spilled my booze. The foreign invader got me. Get him. Ah, that feels so good. Get him. The bad guys are coming. It's the waters of Torah that have spilled over. This is not the first time this has happened to me, by the way. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. I was once... Thank you.
Now in the history.
Thank you, Israel. Okay, that's good. Okay, leave it. The what do you call it? I was once speaking at an event for a yeshiva in America. I was speaking at the Malava Malka. They had a big Malava Malka event. So I was standing up at the podium. They had a very high podium, and the table right next to me, all the main rabbis from the yeshiva were there. And I spilled my water, and it landed right on the Rosh Yeshiva. Yeah, well, listen, it happens. Well, it's not my finest moment. So take a look at Perek Chavav Pasuk Aleph. I forgot what page this is on. I want to show you. You have to see this inside. There's that. Okay, 452. Back to 452. 452. So again, let's read this pasuk again. 5 lines from the top. Watch this. We have to see it inside. Vesa Mishkan Tasa Eser Yerios. You see that? 452. 5 lines. Vesa Mishkan Tasa Eser Yerios. Should make the Mishkan 10 curtains. Then it says Sheish. Sheish is a fabric, which is called, how does he translate it? Linen. Mashzar. Woven. What? How does he translate? What? Twisted linen? Where does it say that?
Twisted linen with turquoise.
Twisted linen. Okay, sheish masor, twisted linen. I guess you somehow twist it. Okay. But one of the commentaries says like this. Sheish obviously alludes to the 6 constant mitzvahs, because it means 6. Sheish, which is a material, also means 6. If you're involved in the 6, separate the next word. Mashzar. Mush means moves. Lo yamush sefer haTorah zemipicha. The Torah should not move from your mouth. Mush means to move. Zar is the foreign invader. Sheish if you're involved in the 6 constant mitzvahs, mush zar, the foreign invader moves from you. That means if a person has got his head thinking about the constant mitzvahs, so then he won't be bothered by the Yetzer Hara. Now there's a very, very there's a very natural explanation for it. Your mind could only occupy one thought at a time. Your mind can only occupy, try it. You can't think 2 things at a time. Big Talmidei Chachamim could. Big Torah scholars could. But most people, you can only think one thing at a time. That's why if you're ever davening, and you also get some weird thoughts in your mind while you're davening, sometimes horrific thoughts while you're davening, even happens on Yom Kippur, the biggest mistake you can make is to close your eye. Don't think about that, don't think about that, don't think about that, don't think about that. The best thing to do is gently refocus on the words and the other thoughts. You can't think about it. It moves. Don't think about it will only reinforce it. Don't fight with it. Don't fight with it. What do they call martial arts? Right? Use their own strength against them. Isn't that what you do in martial arts? The guy uses force against him. Don't fight him, because you're going to lose that way. Just kind of let him slide by, like in Kung Fu. You know, the guy swings and you just kind of move your head. I love that show. He would take a punch and he'd just go like this. The guy would miss him completely and go flying. Must be very realistic. So the what do you call it? He's trying to distract you during davening, don't fight with him. Just refocus on the words. Sheish. So if you're thinking about the 6 constant mitzvahs, mush, it moves zar. The foreigner is going to be removed away from you. Foreigners, it's our okay. Now, one more point. Take a look at let's backtrack for a second. This is a question I had for many years. Doesn't mean I was thinking only about this for many years. It just means every time I saw it in the pasuk, I would think of the question. And I never found an answer to it, and this year I finally got an answer. If you take a look on Perek Chaf Hey Pasuk Yud Ches, what page is that? 448. Okay. So it's a technical point, but it's much bigger than that. I wondered why. Take a look at that pasuk, the second pasuk from the top. The first 3 words, Ve'asisa shnaim kruvim. You should make 2 kruvim. Any of you have any fluency in Hebrew at all? Are you any familiar with Hebrew? How would you say to make 2 kruvim? Ve'asisa shtei kruvim. Ve'asisa shnayim kruvim is completely, it's awkward. That's not how you talk. You say Ve'asisa shtei kruvim or shnei kruvim. Why does it say Ve'asisa shnayim kruvim? I wondered about this every year. Why? There's got to be a reason. It's not an accident. Why is it shnayim kruvim? So I saw this year, one of them before, it says, really enchanting. Whenever the Torah uses the word shtei, it means they're similar, they're alike. For example, on Yom Kippur, where it says to take 2 goats. So it says to take shtei izim. Because you take 2 goats that are as similar in appearance as possible. When it says shnayim or shtayim, that means they're 2, but they're separate. They're not the same. What's different than the kruvim? So you mentioned yesterday. One's got the face of a male, one's a female. One's male, one's female. And you find remember the 2 women come to Shlomo HaMelech? Remember the case with the 2 women? There were 2 women in a house, and one of them, they each had a baby, and one of them rolled over and killed her baby, and accidentally killed her baby. She was sleeping, she killed her baby. So they came with the living baby. They came to Shlomo HaMelech. That's a famous story. He said, pull out a sword. He said, this one said the baby is mine. This one said the living baby is mine. This one said, no, the dead one is yours. The living one is mine. So what did Shlomo HaMelech say? Take the sword, we'll cut him in half. So one of them said, no, let her have the baby. She said, no, cut her in half. I won't have and she won't have. So I was okay, that's the mother. And how did he know? He knew even before they ever said anything. But how did he know from what they said? Because this one was focused on keeping the baby alive. This one was interested in the baby. She was interested in keeping the baby alive. She was interested in the other one not having the baby. So Shlomo HaMelech knew, okay? Now, when it says over there, it doesn't say shtei women. It says shnayim. Because they had different approaches, different attempts. They had a different interest over here. So wherever you see the word, the kruvim is shnayim kruvim. Shnayim kruvim means they're different. But I think that what it's really getting at over here is, remember we spoke about how the kruvim grow out of Torah because they're on the Aron Kodesh. The kruvim represent what a person could become with wings facing heavenwards. Devotion to God. But just remember one thing, you're not him and he's not you. You're shnayim, you're different. You have your abilities and your focus and your interest in serving God, and your maximum accomplishment in serving God is the way you're meant to be doing it. I'll do it the way I'm meant to be doing it, you're meant to. We're not meant to be clones of each other. We're not meant to be carbon copies of each other. Each person, and we could all be Kruvim. We could all be Kruvim, but we're different. You have your job, you have your job. Therefore, it's Shnayim Kruvim, not Shtei Kruvim. I was really very happy to find it because I had never seen an answer to that before. Why Shnayim Kruvim? Okay. Do we have time? Are we at? Okay, we have to stop. Okay.